good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Colonel Wingnuts. I'm a hydraulically organized, syncopated one-man band. I think you can see that there's nobody here but me, right? I'm a one-man band. There's nobody subbing in on the side. I'm hydraulically organized to syncopate you and educate you at the same time. Now, besides being a one-man band, I'm an astronomy instructor at College of the Redwoods these last 6 or 7 years. I also teach meteorology, things like that, just to let you know that I'm legit. I'm also the weatherman on KOZT radio, as you may have heard at one time or another, and I hope you enjoy that kind of thing, because it gets me off too. Now, I'm a musical delivery system. I'm designed to leave a residue of smiles and sticky thoughts in your mind long after this electronic image of mine has faded away and you've gone to your dreamland in between the sheets. Now, you know I'm not real. I'm just a spray of electrons bouncing off your eyeballs, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just a butterfly kiss from the eyelash of God. Unconventional methods to talk about science is a secret project of mine. It's unfunded by anybody. That spherical hydrogen stove that just set outside in the ocean offshore is what we call a star. It just happens to be the nearest one. All the little twinkles that's represented in this chart behind my head is the ones that are further away. Now, I know you may know all that stuff is happening, but there's a lot of realizations, insights, and general combustulations of the mind that are available to you through College of the Redwoods, and through any science teacher that may come along and show you how the universe works a little better than you knew previously. It's a basically friendly thing to do. Now, right as I'm talking, I know that there's a space shuttle circulating over my head with a couple of people in it who are maneuvering that boom arm made by Canada and otherwise figuring out all the details and moving into space. So in honor of those gentlemen up there and their free-fall spaceship with the plugged-up toilet, I'm going to do a little tune called How High the Moon. That big shiny globe that sets right after the sun sometimes, the moon, the sister of our planet. Well, we're very lucky to have that thing. You know, by some of the time that our listeners are a little bit older, maybe another 20 years or so, some of those little kids running around on the street these days, they might be up in the crescent of that moon some night when you're rocking in the old rocking chair, sitting on your porch, maybe 2010 AD or so, and there'll be some little sparkles inside the crescent of the moon. The crescent's dark now in there, but there'll be some electric cities there after a while, you see, domes covered over, and we'll be getting postcards from our grandchildren and what have you, saying things are fine here on Copernicus. They'll probably pose themselves in front of a giant zucchini or something that they've grown in those lunar gardens where everything weighs 1/6 of what it does here on Earth, and so who knows what will happen, but a very strong possibility is that all the fruits and vegetables that are grown would escalate their scales, grow that much bigger by 6 on all sides. What a tremendous thing that would be. We're pretty fortunate to have the moon. You know, if some extraterrestrial intelligence was approaching our solar system, they wouldn't find the inner planets, the 4 inner planets, very interesting. They're small and rocky and pretty close to the sun. They'd be much more interested in the outer gas giants, the Jovian planets, Saturn and Jupiter and what have you. The Voyager pictures that came back from the little robot spacecraft that we flung out there a few years ago show us how beautiful a place that is out there. Jupiter and Saturn, they look like Salvador Dali got to the planet first and painted them all over for us, so they look real good. But if one of those extraterrestrial intelligences swung their multiple eyeballs down in a little closer to the sun, they'd see a double planet in there. And we're not sure, but we think a double planet, which is the Earth and the moon, might be kind of rare. You don't find things teamed up that way. The difference in size between the Earth and the moon, as far as their diameters go, is only a ratio of 1 to 4. That's a very, very small ratio. That's a similar ratio to human beings when they grow up to the maximum size they get. If you look at the other planets and their satellites and what the ratio is between, say, the satellites of Jupiter to the size of Jupiter, you find ratios of 1 to 50 is the smallest you get. And most of them are 1 to 500. So we have a very large moon. And it's very close. It's very handy to use, to think about, especially if we ever figure out some of the problems here on this cool green Earth of ours and move off into orbit, off into space, migrate off that way, and we'll have opportunities to make a whole new world, learning the lessons that we've made, that we've learned on this one, and not repeating the mistakes we've made on this one. A reason that the moon is very interesting to us too is that it causes tides. Now, tides are pretty rare in the solar system. There isn't any tides at all like we have here on Earth, anywhere in the solar system that we know of. This is more than just a mildly interesting thing. When we mention extraterrestrial intelligence, people very often think, well, how did life start here on Earth? I'm sure you read in the papers about the battle between evolution and creationism, and whether life came to this planet, evolved out of the oceans, or whether God came down and started it here, or whether long ago there was some visitors that we had here a very long time ago, and they had a little picnic on one of the places and left a few scraps laying around, you know, mild little interstellar litter bugs, and maybe some of the food scraps from their plates or candy bar wrappers just triggered off a whole chain of events that might have resulted so far in Colonel Wingnuts sitting in this television studio talking to you. On the other hand, some very famous astronomers think that life began on this planet and it was seeded either from the comets or from other planetary solar systems deliberately. This latter course is called directed panspermia, and it means that a civilization can evolve so far that they can send out unmanned spacecraft that will travel for a very long time, enter a solar system, and then seed all the planets that are in it with the possibility that one or two of them might catch. That we have no evidence that that went one way or the other here. That may be the case. Sir Fred Hoyle, probably the most eminent astronomer in the world, thinks that life began from comets. And he also feels that diseases came from comets too, and still do, that every now and then there's bacteria that fall from the sky, spores, fungi, kind of things from giant dandelion seeds that pass by that we think of as comets. Whether any of these things are true or not, I personally don't know, and there isn't anyone who really does. But one of the things that seems to be evident is this. We seem to have come out of the oceans. We have remnants of the oceans in our blood and in other aspects of our body. It's very hard to evolve out of an ocean. It's like us evolving now into space, learning how to breathe vacuum. Imagine how many people would die trying to do that. Well, you can imagine how many fish died slithering out on mud flats and muddy banks in various places, trying to learn how to breathe, get their primitive gills going in a whole new way that nobody could teach them how to do. Well, without the tides and without the moon, we wouldn't have the mud flats that would allow fish to learn how to breathe, and so we may not have gotten life on this planet if we didn't have very strong tides. It's a strange theory, but it seems to fit, and of course it didn't come from me. It came from some professional astronomers who think very deeply and long about this kind of thing. So in honor of the tidal theory of human evolution, here's a little planetary jazz for you. It's called It's Only a Paper Moon. Come into your minds and your hearts for a few minutes. Hope you don't mind this experiment of ours, mixing a little music and science. Figure we might sugarcoat the pill a little bit, make it a little more palatable. Actually, science is all around you. It's not a matter of you understanding it or not. It's right there anyway. You got cosmic rays buzzing through your guts right now while you're sitting watching the television. And so it may hurt you to learn about them, or you may want to know a little bit more about it. But it's up to you, and it's up to me to syncopate it a little bit for you just to see whether it goes down a little easier. So long from Colonel Wingnuts.